Here's why intelligent people prefer to be alone. There's a quiet power in solitude, a realm where the sharpest minds retreat, not out of loneliness, but out of necessity. Have you ever wondered why the most profound thinkers, the visionaries, the intellectuals, often find themselves drawn to silence rather than to the ceaseless chatter of the crowd? It's not arrogance, it's not misanthropy. It's a deep, inescapable realization. Solitude is the breeding ground of clarity. Picture this. You're in a crowded cafe, laughter bouncing off the walls, conversations interwoven like an endless tapestry of small talk and self-indulgence. Amidst this, a lone figure sits by the window, lost in thought, coffee untouched, eyes fixed on a point beyond sight. It's not that they dislike people, they simply understand that the richest conversations often happen in the quiet corridors of their own mind. Why waste energy on shallow chatter when the universe is whispering its secrets in moments of stillness? Now let's be clear, this isn't about some cliched loner genius stereotype. It's about the unmistakable pattern found in those with razor-sharp intellects. Why do intelligent people prefer solitude? Why do they willingly trade social gatherings for moments of introspection? The answer lies in 5 powerful reasons. Reasons that redefine what it truly means to be alone, but never lonely. 1. Their minds are too loud to tolerate the noise of the world. I once knew someone, let's call him Elias, who was brilliant beyond measure. He saw patterns where others saw chaos, heard meaning in words unspoken, and could predict the course of events with unnerving accuracy. But what struck me most about him was his solitude. While others flocked to social gatherings, Elias remained apart, not out of arrogance, but because his mind never stopped working. He once told me, "It's not that I don't enjoy people, it's that their noise makes it harder to hear my own thoughts." And that was it, the crux of why intelligent people prefer to be alone. Their minds are relentless, questioning everything, analyzing everything, and in a world that rarely stops to think, solitude is the only refuge where they can make sense of it all. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca understood this well. Living in the heart of Rome's political and social chaos, he saw firsthand how the noise of the world could cloud judgment. Despite being an advisor to Emperor Nero, he often withdrew into deep contemplation, writing extensively about the necessity of solitude. He knew that wisdom is not found in the opinions of the crowd, but in the silence where the mind can think freely. For highly intelligent people, the constant stimulation of social interactions is not just distracting, it's suffocating. When the world is always demanding attention, their minds are left without the space they need to refine ideas, solve problems, or even just breathe. Social interaction is not a passive act for them, it's work. Every conversation is layered with nuance, every sentence dissected for subtext, and every social cue requires mental energy. Imagine reading between the lines of every interaction, detecting insincerity, deciphering hidden motives, and absorbing the weight of unspoken emotions. It's not just casual small talk for them, it's an exhausting mental exercise. This is why, while others seek social engagement to relax, highly intelligent people retreat to solitude to recover. It is not loneliness they seek, but clarity, an uninterrupted space where their thoughts can stretch without restriction. Yet this preference for solitude does not mean they disdain human connection. On the contrary, they crave deep, meaningful interactions, the kind that fuel their intellect and challenge their perspectives. They do not avoid people, they avoid the superficial. Given a choice between an evening of idle chatter and an hour of intense discussion on philosophy, science, or human nature, they will always choose the latter. This is why they have few close friends, but the ones they do have are bound by something far stronger than mere social obligation. Their friendships are forged in the fire of intellectual exchange, not in the shallow waters of convenience. Ultimately, solitude is not isolation. It is a conscious decision to guard the most precious resource they possess, their mind. Just as a sculptor needs a quiet workshop to carve out beauty from raw stone, an intelligent person needs solitude to sculpt thoughts into something meaningful. In a world that moves fast and talks endlessly, their preference for silence is not a rejection of life. It is a devotion to understanding it on a deeper level. 2. They value depth over superficial connections. I once knew a man named Henry who had the patience of a saint, except when it came to small talk. The moment someone mentioned the weather, you could see his soul leave his body. He wasn't rude about it, but his responses were legendary in their efficiency. "Nice day, isn't it?" someone would say. "Yes," Henry would reply. And that was it. Conversation over. It wasn't that he disliked people, far from it. He simply had no tolerance for words that carried no weight. If you wanted to discuss philosophy, history, or the meaning of life, he'd be your best friend. But if all you had to offer was a rundown of what you had for lunch, you might as well have been talking to a brick wall. For highly intelligent people, socializing isn't about filling silence. It's about substance. They aren't the ones who thrive in large crowds or find joy in empty pleasantries. They want conversations that make their brains light up, ones that challenge their perspectives or introduce them to new ways of thinking. It's why they often prefer solitude over mindless chatter. To them, an evening spent reading an ancient text, debating the nuances of human nature, or dissecting the philosophical implications of a seemingly simple event is infinitely more fulfilling than attending a party where the most stimulating question is, "So, what do you do for a living?" Of course, this preference for depth doesn't mean they lack humor or fun. In fact, their humor is often razor-sharp, laced with wit, irony, or an absurdity that flies over most people's heads. They'll laugh at things others don't even notice, subtle contradictions, unintentional wordplay, the sheer ridiculousness of human behavior. But try to engage them in an hour-long discussion about the latest social media trend, and you'll see their enthusiasm drain faster than a leaky bucket. It's not that they think they're superior, it's that their brains are wired to seek meaning, not just noise. This craving for depth often makes their social circle small but meaningful. While some people collect acquaintances like trading cards, they invest their time in a select few who can hold a real conversation. They don't need 100 friends. They need one or two who understand them, who appreciate the beauty of a well-constructed argument, who can sit in comfortable silence without feeling the need to fill it with empty words. They'd rather have a 2-hour debate about human nature than endure another surface-level exchange about weekend plans. In the end, their love for depth isn't about avoiding people, it's about valuing connection. They aren't drawn to intellect alone, but to minds that are curious, thoughtful, and willing to explore beyond the obvious. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being selective. And honestly, who can blame them? Life is too short for bad conversations. 3. Their energy gets drained by social interaction. Ever noticed how some people can attend event after event, effortlessly floating from one conversation to the next, while others seem to hit an invisible wall after an hour? Maybe you know someone who eagerly agrees to go out, but once they arrive, gradually withdraws, spending more time by the snack table than in conversation. Or maybe you've been that person, the one calculating how soon you can leave without seeming rude. If so, welcome to the world of intelligent individuals who find social interaction more draining than refreshing. For highly intelligent people, being in a crowded room isn't just about showing up, It's about navigating an intricate web of interactions. Every conversation requires processing not only words, but also tone, body language, and hidden meanings. They don't just hear what's being said, they analyze it. Who is being genuine? Who is subtly one-upping the other? Who's just filling the silence? By the time most people are settling into the party, they're already mentally exhausted from decoding the social landscape. And then there's the sheer effort of group dynamics. Have you ever tried to interject in a fast-paced group discussion only to miss the perfect moment, leaving you standing there like an actor who forgot their cue? Intelligent individuals often experience this frustration because their brains are busy forming complex thoughts while the conversation moves at lightning speed. By the time they've crafted a meaningful response, the topic has shifted from world events to someone's dog's new haircut. At that point, they'd rather just listen or slip away unnoticed. It's not that they dislike socializing entirely, it's that the energy cost is high. While some thrive on the buzz of a packed event, intelligent individuals often find their social battery draining faster than a phone on 1% with 10 apps running. They prefer smaller, more intentional gatherings, where discussions aren't drowned out by music, interruptions, and the pressure to perform social niceties. So, if you've ever seen someone suddenly go quiet at an event, take more fresh air breaks than necessary, or mysteriously disappear before the night ends, don't take it personally. Their mind is simply running at full capacity, processing everything at once. Sometimes they just need a quiet exit before their brain waves flatline from overstimulation. 4. They are too focused on their own growth and pursuits. I once knew someone who was impossible to make weekend plans with. You'd send a message, no response. You'd call, straight to voicemail. Then, like clockwork, 3 days later, they'd reappear with an apology and some grand explanation. Sorry, I was buried in research, or I lost track of time while practicing. At first, it seemed like an excuse, but over time, I realized it wasn't avoidance, it was obsession. Highly intelligent people don't just pursue their passions, they disappear into them. Whether it's writing, coding, painting, or mastering an obscure skill, they enter a mental zone where time bends, hunger is forgotten, and social obligations feel like unwelcome interruptions. While others unwind by grabbing drinks or watching TV, they find their joy in refining their craft. It's not arrogance, it's simply a different kind of fulfillment. Now, imagine asking someone like this to abandon their work for a casual hangout. To them, that's like pausing a symphony mid-performance just to check out a street musician. It's not that they don't enjoy socializing, it's that their mind is wired to chase progress. And let's be honest, when you're knee-deep in a project that excites you, does small talk about weekend plans sound remotely appealing? This doesn't mean they don't value relationships. They just approach them differently. While some people bond through frequent meetups and long conversations, intelligent individuals connect through shared ideas and meaningful exchanges. They'd rather have one deep conversation that leaves an impact than 10 shallow ones that evaporate like mist. So if you know someone who rarely makes it to social events, don't assume they're avoiding you. They're likely knee-deep in a project, lost in their own world of creation. And if you really want to see them light up, don't ask them what they've been up to. Ask them what they're building. 5. They see through the illusion of constant social validation. Ever met someone who doesn't care about impressing anyone? They walk into a room with the same energy whether they're surrounded by people or completely alone. While everyone else is busy crafting the perfect image, they're focused on something far more valuable, being rather than performing. For highly intelligent people, external validation is like fast food, temporarily satisfying but ultimately empty. They see how people chase approval, posting carefully curated highlights of their lives, fishing for compliments, and measuring self-worth in heart-shaped icons. It's all a game, and they refuse to play. Why? Because they've tasted something better, internal validation. They know that real confidence isn't found in applause, but in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and having an honest conversation with yourself. No filters, no audience, no need for approval, just raw self-reflection. Most people avoid this level of solitude because it forces them to confront who they really are. But intelligent people, they embrace it. To them, solitude isn't isolation, it's freedom. It's the space where they think deeply, refine their ideas, and grow without distraction. This mindset shifts how they interact with the world. They don't chase validation, which makes them immune to the highs and lows of public opinion. Whether they receive praise or criticism, it doesn't shake their foundation because they aren't built on the approval of others. While some seek the spotlight, they find peace in the shadows, quietly working on themselves without the need for an audience. So if you've ever wondered why some people seem unaffected by trends, gossip, or the endless cycle of validation seeking, it's because they see through it. They know that the only approval worth having is their own, and once you understand that, the noise of the world suddenly becomes much easier to ignore. Final thoughts. So, the next time you see someone sitting alone, absorbed in thought, don't mistake them for lonely. They are not missing out. They are not longing for distraction. They are exactly where they need to be, standing at the crossroads of intellect and solitude, listening to the symphony of their own mind. And perhaps, in that quiet space, they have found what so many seek in the noise: themselves.